I am a massive glutton for punishment. Hello, all you wonderful people. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to my crazy little Wonderland. So, after finishing the last skirt that I did, I still had this bit of the cotton blonde left over, and I figured this actually matches pretty well to this heap of netting that I have. So I decided I'm going to make another skirt, but this time I'm going to make a net skirt. Um, I've always had a love for kind of net skirts. I love how they look. And I figured, well, I have the materials to do it and I have a lot of netting. So let's have a crack and make one. So I'll see you guys all and show you how I do it. Okay, so to start off with, I took the pattern piece that I used from the previous skirt and I altered it slightly to make a new, smaller pattern for the skirt that I'm going to make. So I need to cut out 18 pieces of this one because I'm going to double layer it and I'm going to sandwich the netting in between. So I'm going to start, I'm going to cut those out. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've cut out the 18 pieces that I need for the top of the skirt. I've got 9 here and 9 here. So after I've done cutting everything else out, I'll go ahead and stitch these together and I will show you how I'm going to sandwich all this together. So the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to take the last bit of fabric I got and I'm going to make a waistband just to go on top of these. So I'm going to start cutting that out. Here we go. Okay, so for the waistband, I'm going to lay this out flat and I'm going to use my ruler and my pencil and I'm going to mark out 10 centimeters. Okay, so here is my waistband and I still have a nice chunk of the cotton left over here and I also have a length here so I can save these two for later in my stash if I need them for another later project. So I've got the waistband cut out. The next thing I'll have to do is I will have to get some interfacing or stabilizer to go in the waistband. This will just help to kind of keep it so that it doesn't disform or anything like that. The stabilizer I'm using currently for my last few projects is not fusible interfacing. It's just general kind of interfacing, just your kind of sewing interfacing. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to iron this out, and I'm going to get my interfacing, and I'm going to iron that out too, and I'm going to make a piece to go into this. Okay, so I've got my waistband all prepped and ready to go. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm about to the part that I dread, which is cutting out the netting. So I will be back in a sec and show you what plan I've come up with to kind of do that. Okay, so this is the part that I'm dreading. Here is my netting, and I'm going to need 6 meters of this. The one thing I'm dreading is cutting this out. I'm not very experienced with using netting like this, and it's not easy to mark or anything like that. So I have an idea. I have these two rulers. This is a 60 centimeter right angle ruler, and this is my long, I think a meter? Yeah, this is my meter of long ruler. So I have an idea of what I think I'm going to try and do. So let's see if it works. The first thing that I need to do though is I need to cut out 6 meters of the netting. I think it's about 10 to 15 meters here of this netting. So I'm going to start off with doing that. So let's work that out first. Okay, to work out my 6 meters, I'm going to take my measuring tape and it's going to go from the end and I'm going to measure along like so. So my tape measure is 150 centimeters. So if I do 4 of these, this should give me the 6 meters that I need. I'm not worried about being too accurate with this. I don't mind it being a bit rough, just because a little bit extra just means that there's more room for kind of error in case something goes wrong. So that's not too bad. Okay. So one more. It's a bit twisted, which isn't helping too much. I really should have tried to flatten this out a bit better, but it's all right. Once I've got it to where I need it to go, I'll flatten it out a bit more. So then last little bit, and there is the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to mark just that little part so I know where it's going to go, and then I can start cutting it out. Okay, so I've cut out my 6 meters. Now my plan, which I'm hoping is going to work, is I'm going to use my 2 rulers, and I'm going to use the 60 centimeter right angled ruler to create the length that I need, and then I'm going to use the metal ruler to kind of use as a guide for the scissors so that I can cut it to the correct length that I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this out over the table, like so. Make sure the whole thing's flat and even. With that raw edge lining up as best I can. I'm probably going to keep the raw edge intact, and then I'll use that as the top of the skirt, just where I put it into the waistband. Shift you guys a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got this flat, my plan is to take my right angled ruler, like so, and then I'm going to take the big ruler, and I'm going to match it up with the edge like so. And then hopefully what I can do is I can use that edge as a way to cut the fabric out as I go along. Hopefully this works. Not sure, we'll find out. I might get my other ruler just to make sure that this is straight as well, just so I make sure I got my cut straight. Got another metal ruler, which is also 60 centimeters. I'm going to use that to line both up. So that should be a straight edge. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along the edge, and fingers crossed I can get this to come out right. Wish me luck. All right, so once I cut the first part out, what I'll do is I'll move the ruler down like so. And then I'll move the metal ruler and I'll match it up to the 60 centimeters again, and I'll keep cutting. Okay, so I'll be back in a sec after I cut this piece out. Okay, success. I've managed to cut the piece out. It's relatively straight. Couple little spots where I probably did go a little bit astray, but it's still pretty much the length that I need it. So I'm going to use the same method, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out the second layer that I need. This is going to be the base of the skirt, but I'm also going to do a gathered kind of layer on the bottom of the skirt as well. So I need 2 more pieces of the 6 in 20 centimeters, so I can create the gather at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut that out, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've managed to successfully cut the netting out. It did not do the neatest job, I will admit. I'm hoping that when I go in and I hem, and I don't know if I want to overlock this or if I'm going to pinking shear it, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping I can kind of fix it up as I go. But this is the main part of the skirt, and this will be the gathered layer at the bottom. So I'm going to stop for tonight though, because it's currently 10 o'clock and I've got to go to bed and get off of work. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and I'll continue to go on with the skirt. So bye for now. Okay, so I'm back. It's not quite the next day. It's actually the day after. Spent yesterday work, and then we also went to the movies. So got home a bit late, probably a bit too late to do stuff. So I actually came up with another idea. So I realized I have enough netting to make 2 skirts. And because I'm wanting to try and use up the fabric that I've got, I decided I'm going to make the second skirt, but it's going to be slightly different from my original design. So yeah, I've been experimenting a little bit with sewing the stuff together. I'm not experienced at all with sewing with netting. This is going to be interesting. So let's see if this works. Okay, so here are the 2 piles for the 2 different skirts. This is the original skirt that I was working on, and this is the second skirt. So I used what was left of my cotton to make another waistband that I prepped. So these are all ready to go. Now, my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on putting together this part of the skirt with the cotton, just because I'm going to use my overlocker to finish this off, and I'd rather do that now and then kind of get that out of the way. So I'm going to work on these first. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sewed them all together. I decided against overlocking the edges. I instead decided to pinking shear them, and I've ironed the seam flat so that when I sandwich this all together, it'll all sit nicely. So now that I've got this done, the next thing I need to work on is the netting itself. That's going to be the fun part. So I'm thinking my plan is I'm going to work on one skirt first and then I'll finish the second one after. So I'm going to start by sewing together the netting piece that I need first, and then I'm going to start gathering. So yeah, let's go. Okay, so I've sewn together the end. So how I've done it, I did a bit of research and I found that the best way to do it is to use a zigzag stitch. This seals it in the best way, and I've gone ahead and I've just trimmed off the excess after I've done the stitch. So it makes it look pretty good once it's opened up, and it's probably the most invisible seam that you're going to get on one of these. If I can find the inside. So when it opens up, it'll look like so. So that's not too bad. So this is the only thing I'm going to have for the front of this, or for the section of this, just because it is how it is. So I'm going to do the same thing with the other two pieces for the bottom layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to gather everything. So yeah. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've stitched the two pieces together for the bottom, and I've also finished it off. So I decided to do the bottom with a zigzag stitch, and then I've trimmed off the excess, and it just gives this nice clean kind of finish to it, almost like a rolled hem in a way. So now that I've got both pieces prepared, I'm going to switch up my stitch and I'm going to start to gather these together. So this is going to be the bottom gathered layer, and then the other one's going to be the middle part that's going to attach to the cotton layer. So yeah, let's start gathering. Okay, so to do the gathering stitch, I've set my machine to just your simple kind of straight stitch, and I've set it to the longest length it can go. After I've done that, it's just basically running it through the machine until I've got everything stitched kind of like a line of stitching on the thing. The one thing to remember then when you're doing a gathering stitch is you don't back stitch. You want the seam to be open so that you can pull it, and this is how you'll get the gather in the fabric. If you end up back stitching it, you won't be able to pull the seam and it just won't go anywhere. Okay, so here I've drawn everything together. I know it looks kind of small at the moment, but I like to just kind of draw it all together, and then what I'll do is I'll take kind of the halfway point, pin it down onto the skirt, and then I will start to kind of undo the gather a little bit, but just to even it out to the point where I like it. People have different methods of how they like to do this. This is just how I've always found that I like to do it. With the mesh, I'm finding it a lot easier to actually gather this than like just normal fabric. I think because it's so open, the threads like to like they move more freely in the mesh, which I suppose is why you would want to use a zigzag stitch when you're sewing this together. Otherwise, the stitches will just come undone really easily. So I'm going to get the skirt, the top part of the skirt, the cotton part. I'm going to pin this down, and then I'm going to start to pull and ungather until I get the kind of look that I'm after. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have opened the gathering up, and then I've used the clips to keep it down. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to sew around just kind of a holding stitch, because I'm going to sandwich this between the two layers of cotton. But I just want to do this first just so it kind of stays in place while I'm trying to sew the cotton on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start doing that. Okay, so this is the net layer on the first part of the skirt. So I've just gone in and I've just done a very close stitch to the edge. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side of this and I'm going to sandwich it all together, so that it's all sealed up, and it should all be nice and neat once it's done. So I'll show you guys what that looks like after I'm done. Okay, so here's the skirt with the waistband. So all I've got to do now for this one is add the bottom layer. So just like before, I'm going to gather up the bottom layer, I'm going to move it around, and then I'm going to sew it on, and yeah, I'll show you what it looks like after I've attached everything. Okay, so the first skirt is done. Here it is. I'm mostly happy with how this turned out. There are a couple things that I probably will change and maybe even fix up in the future. The first thing is the elastic. So I'm actually using some elastic that was left in my stash, but it is probably a little bit too thick. I probably want to go for more of maybe a thinner, looser elastic, just because it is such a light skirt. It doesn't really need very kind of heavy duty, bulky elastic for it. Another thing as well is I accidentally burnt some of the netting with the iron. I was trying to iron this part out and I accidentally touched a little bit. It's okay. It didn't burn a hole through it, but it has melted it slightly. So not much I can do in that situation. The skirt was still salvageable, so that was good. But apart from that, I do like it. I had designed these to be overskirts for, if you wanted to wear a different skirt underneath or even like pants or something. So yeah, I'm going to start working on the next one. It's going to be a different design to this one. So yeah, I'll show you how I go with the next one. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have finished the 2 layers for the next skirt. I've done 2 layers pretty much the same way that I've done the previous one, where I've zigzag stitched it together, done the gathering, and I've hemmed it. So this is all ready to go into the waistband. I've also prepped the waistband a little bit differently too. I've actually gone ahead and I've kind of hemmed the waistband as well. So I've sealed in the edge. This is so that once I've gathered up the mesh, I can just sandwich the mesh into the waistband, and then I'm going to stitch along that kind of already existing stitching. I found this would be easier just because, unlike with other skirts where you can kind of stitch it into the fabric of the skirt, this doesn't really have that. Another thing that's done as well is, because I'm also adding elastic to this as well, I've actually gone ahead and I've only half stitched the waistband together, so I've left a gap. This will just let me put the elastic through, and I'll seal it after it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish the skirt, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. Okay, so I'm finally finished. So this is the first one. I do love how this came out. Like I said before, couple little things. I actually did also go back and change the elastic for something a bit lighter. I just feel like it sits a bit better now without it. I'm also realizing that although I've made this, I don't really have anything to wear underneath it yet, but hey, makes a project for a future date. But yeah, I'm actually really happy how it's turned out. I like how flowy it is. So I'll show you what the second one looks like. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, and this is the second one. So I ended up making this one 2 tiers with the kind of gathering on both tiers. I felt this one turned out a bit better just because the mistakes and learning curves that I had with the first one, I kind of corrected with the second one. I will say the one thing that kind of got to me in this process was trimming, honestly. The sewing it together wasn't too bad. I took a little bit of time because I was using a zigzag stitch, but it was trimming the seams off once I'd done sewing it that just seems to take me forever. But I'm really glad these are done. I'm really happy with how this turned out. This is the first time I've ever made a mesh skirt like this, and considering that I've got 5 more different colors of mesh to still use, actually I think 6, I've got room to make more different skirts. So yeah, I'm really happy how this turned out. So thanks for coming along for this one. And I hope to see you guys soon with my next project. Bye.